Hi, my name is Matt Gornall, and with my partners Nick Bai, Quinn Chaffin, and Jonathan Garcia, we did the design of experiments for download speeds of phones. For our experiment, we decided to use 3 different factors. We decided to use the type of phone, the distance from the router, and the time of day. Each of these are very important for the following reasons. The distance directly relates to the strength and reliability of the network that you are on. At longer distance, connection will be slower and more intermittent. Time of day is important for 2 reasons. Traffic will vary throughout the day. This means that the available bandwidth you have will be greater at times when fewer people are using the Wi-Fi, and it will be less at busier times when more people are using the Wi-Fi. Phone type is also important because the hardware used to receive information from the router will also affect connection speed. A low quality receiver on a phone may bottleneck the process of downloading a file. The response variables we had were our download times, and we had 2 levels for 3 different factors, which gave us 8 different combinations of tests, and we ran 10 trials for each of these combinations. Our procedure was pretty straightforward for this experiment. We had 2 different phones, an Android and an iPhone, 2 different distances, 1 meter and 15 meters, in 2 different times of day, 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. In order to conduct the experiment, we would take one phone, set a certain distance from the router at a certain time of day, and run our 10 trials. We would then move away and run another 10 trials with the same phone, and then we would switch the phone and run the 2 previous steps again. And then at a different time of day, we would run the 4 previous steps we did at the 11 a.m. time. The 8 combinations can be represented in these 2 matrices we have here. In input A, we have our phone type, and our +1 is our Android, our -1 is our iPhone. In input B, that is our distance from a router. Our +1 is 1 meter away, and our -1 is 15 meters away. And in input C, this is our time of day. Our +1 is at 11 a.m., and our -1 is at 8 p.m. This chart shows all the data that we collected throughout the experiment. It shows that we had 8 different combinations, and we did 10 trials for each. It shows our average at the bottom of our 8 combinations, and then it gives us our grand average of 49.53 seconds per the download speed, and it also gives us our standard deviation along the very bottom. The calculation and response matrix gives us our average times for our 8 combinations. It also represents our factors in either plus or -1. Once the calculation and response matrix is created, we can move on to creating the full matrix. The full matrix just replaces the plus or minus ones with the average download speeds for each of the combinations, as you can see here. The sums on the bottom in yellow, those are our weighted sums for each combination. And below that in blue, you can see that our grand average is 49.53 seconds for our download speeds. And as you go across in green, those are our other averages. With the final average download speeds, we can create our prediction equation. Our prediction equation can be finished by finding the main effects of our different factors and the interactions our different factors had on the download speeds. As a result from this experiment, the best download speed came from the iPhone in the morning near the router, as the worst download speed came from the Android phone near the router at night. The best optimal settings that we have come up with are the iPhone in the morning while far from the router, which is different from our best download speed, but the worst download speed correlates to the worst average download speed, as in our 5th combination, which is the Android close to the router in the evening. To improve our experiment, we could add 2 additional factors. We could add connection frequency and obstacles between the router and the phone. These 2 factors together heavily influence each other, since more obstacles in between the router and your phone would give a poor connection frequency, and less obstacles in between your router and phone would give a higher connection frequency. These are very important for real-world connection speeds. Some variables we would not be able to control would be random changes in signal strength just due to the router and electricity, and other obstacles between the router and phone.